The battlefield trembled under the steps of the Separatist tanks. Bolts of energy cut through the air, and the metallic sound of the droids echoed across the arid plain. At the center of the front line, Mace Windu's lilac saber moved with impeccable precision, deflecting blaster fire and clearing the way for the clone soldiers. His leadership was firm, and every command echoed with authority. "Advance through the eastern flank," he shouted, as his blade cut 2 droids in half. The energy of the fight was fierce, but Jedi discipline kept the troops united. On the other side, the imposing figure of Xyracall appeared, the Separatist general of that distant world. He was a warrior of the lizard people, his dark green skin marked by scars, yellow eyes gleaming with cold intelligence. Xyracall commanded not only droids, but also his own species, agile reptilians with sharp claws and crude armor. Their advance was brutal, and for a moment it seemed as though the Republic would be crushed. But Windu breathed deeply, raised his saber, and advanced. The Force was at his side. The final battle approached when Windu spotted the lizard leader at the top of a rocky hill. He climbed amid the chaos, dodging explosions and leaping over enemies. There, he found Xyracall waiting, armed with 2 curved blades that gleamed like fangs. The lizard roared, vanishing suddenly. He became invisible before the Jedi's eyes. Windu spun, alert, but an invisible strike hit his back. Another slashed his leg. The creature was far too fast, appearing only to wound and disappearing again. He cut his victims little by little. He liked to play with his prey. He thought himself so superior, but this would be his great mistake. The Jedi Master felt the fight slipping out of his control. Wounded, Windu fell to his knees, bracing himself on the ground. The enemy laughed with his harsh, reptilian voice. Yet, instead of giving in to despair, the Jedi closed his eyes. He inhaled deeply. The Force coursed through his body like an icy river. A chill ran down his spine, and suddenly something changed. It was not just the ordinary Force. It was as if another presence was approaching. He felt watched, but not by the enemy. The energy was different, deeper, and carried calm. Slowly, he rose to his feet. When Xyracall attacked again, invisible, Windu did not rely on his eyes, but on something else. He heard a rough yet friendly voice telling him where to defend, when to dodge, and the perfect moment to strike. Moving in sync with that mysterious call, he swung his lilac saber in a perfect arc. The strike found resistance and, in a burst of light, split the lizard in half. The body fell visible to the ground, defeated. The battle was over. The clones had won, but Windu still heard in his mind an echo, a calm voice, almost a whisper. "It is very good to see you again, Master Windu." Stunned, he looked around. No Jedi nearby. No enemy. Another reptilian, perhaps? The soldiers celebrated victory, but that voice did not leave him. "Who are you?" he asked aloud. Silence answered. The Jedi Master returned to Coruscant with victory secured, but inside him something had changed. The sensation of that presence persisted. It felt neither like a threat nor an illusion, but he could not define it. Even so, a certainty was born. He needed to seek answers in the depths of the Force. That night, the Jedi Council chamber was silent and empty. The stars of Coruscant shone beyond the tall windows, and Windu sat alone at the center, in meditation. He let himself be carried by the flow of the Force, trying to understand what had happened on the battlefield. The air seemed to shift in temperature. A cold breeze crossed the room. Then, before him, a figure appeared, surrounded by bluish light. It was an old man with a serene expression and deep gaze, who seemed both young and aged at the same time. Windu rose immediately. The presence was real, though not tangible, and yet unlike anything else. The ghost observed him and spoke in a calm voice. "I am a friend of the present, the past, and the future. We lived good moments." Windu frowned. The figure was familiar, but he could not identify him. His heart raced, but he felt no threat. On the contrary, a powerful serenity spread throughout the room. It was impossible to confuse that aura with something from the dark side. Still, Windu remained suspicious. If it's a trick of the enemy, it will have no power here, he said, trying to rationalize the vision. But the spectre only smiled. They spoke for hours. The ghost spoke in riddles, about times that had not yet come, about memories of ancient wars and friendships that spanned eras. Windu listened, torn between doubt and fascination. With each word, he felt his suspicion dissolve into the peace emanating from that presence. Never before had he experienced such serenity. At one point, the spectre leaned in and spoke gravely. "The Senate, there lies the true danger. Among them, a Sith walks in disguise. The Republic bleeds not because of its external enemies, but from within." Windu narrowed his eyes. The revelation struck his spirit like lightning. He had always suspected corruption, but never imagined something so deep. The idea of a Sith Lord infiltrated at the heart of the Republic was almost unbearable. He breathed deeply, absorbing the gravity of the warning. Immediately after, the ghost touched on an even more delicate subject: Anakin Skywalker. "He is not an enemy," he said. "Though he walks through shadows, he does not understand. One day he will need help and compassion, even if he never asks. You will see danger in him, but also a choice. The Force surrounds him in a unique way." Windu fell silent, recalling the arrogance and impulsiveness of the young knight. It was hard to imagine compassion instead of judgment, but something in those words made him reflect. Perhaps there was more to Skywalker's destiny than he had assumed. The hours went by, and the bluish presence began to fade slowly. Windu remained seated, in absolute silence. Through the window, he saw the lights of Coruscant stretching to the horizon. His heart was heavy. Something had changed forever. The Jedi Order, the Senate, Anakin. Everything seemed to carry a new weight, like pieces of a game he still did not understand. The spectre spoke one last time. "I will return only if you understand my secrets." Then it vanished like mist in the wind. Mace Windu remained there, motionless, his saber resting on his lap. He knew he could not reveal this to anyone. Not yet. The Republic was in danger, and now he carried a secret that would change everyone's fate. He did not know who the spirit was, but he felt, deep in the Force, that it was not an enemy. Perhaps it was the only ally capable of illuminating a path that was becoming ever darker. And so, the silence of the night guarded the mystery that would mark his journey. Since the apparition of the spectre, Mace Windu began to see the Senate with different eyes. The speeches, once monotonous and political, now sounded laden with ulterior motives. He constantly remembered the ghost's words: "The danger is not in the battles, but within the heart of the Republic." This forced him to observe every gesture, every pause, every vote. For the first time in a long while, he was not just a Jedi warrior, but a silent guardian before a threat no one else yet perceived. Windu realized that, among the luxurious corridors and fiery speeches, there was always an invisible current of interests that intersected around the Chancellor. However, he could not act hastily. The Force told him he should observe, not act. More than that, the instruction to support Anakin echoed in his mind, the young man he so often questioned and who, in his view, should never have been trained. Even so, the spectre had asked for compassion. This was an inner struggle for Windu, as it went against everything he believed in. Determined, he began a solitary investigation. He would not trust senators. He wandered the halls like a shadow, listening to conversations, analyzing public documents and administrative reports. He employed techniques that few Jedi mastered: the keen perception of the Force to detect nervousness in tones of voice, small lapses of gaze that revealed lies, micro-expressions hidden in political smiles. Every detail was stored in his mind. He advanced like a patient hunter. One night, seated high in the Senate galleries, Windu noticed something that chilled his blood. Palpatine, the Chancellor, always appeared at strategic moments, controlling votes with smooth words and rehearsed gestures. He always seemed 2 steps ahead of the debates. Stranger still was how allies and opponents, in the end, ended up yielding to his charisma. Is he just a skillful politician? Windu questioned himself, but the Force unsettled him. He mentally noted these patterns but had no proof. The suspicion weighed on him, and still, silence was the only option. In his meditation, the Jedi Master reflected, what if he was being deceived by the dark side? Could the ghost have been just an illusion planted to sow discord? Windu had never doubted himself so much. But amid the doubt, he remembered the serene warmth of the apparition, an energy that could not have come from the Sith. That kept him firm. He decided to continue watching Palpatine closely, waiting for the moment when the mask, if it existed, would fall on its own. During a Jedi Council meeting, Obi-Wan brought new information. Rumors said that Count Dooku was planning a bold attack to kidnap the Chancellor himself. The announcement fell like a bomb. Yoda remained silent, pondering, while other masters discussed possibilities. Obi-Wan, always meticulous, offered to investigate alone, certain he could track the Count's movements, since he had once managed to do so before. The Council hesitated, but ended up agreeing. Windu observed in silence, uncomfortable with the audacity of the proposal. Days turned into weeks, and Obi-Wan's silence became a concern. Battle reports arrived, but no sign of him, until, on a border planet, the Jedi fell into a carefully planned ambush. Dooku, elegant in his Makashi style, received him in duel. The blue blade against the red cut the air in precise movements. Obi-Wan fought with discipline, but the Sith's skill was overwhelming. In just a few moves, he was disarmed as a dozen enemy droids and some survivors of the reptilian army that had once been defeated by the invasion of the clones, and Windu had joined the Count, thus managing to catch the Master off guard. A net of energy fell over him, trapping him like in a repeated snare from old times. At the Jedi Temple, the truth arrived in the form of a hologram. Dooku, unmasked, projected himself before the Masters, displaying Obi-Wan chained and wounded. His voice overflowed with arrogance. The great Jedi Council, incapable of protecting even one of its most loyal servants. Do you still believe in your rotten republic? The vision of the torture shook everyone. Windu clenched his fists as he realized that some of the guards restraining Kenobi were reptilians, probably ones who had fled the previously mentioned war, but he kept his posture rigid. The Count's provocation was clear, but his threat was also real. Obi-Wan was in danger, and time was running out. It was then that Windu decided to act personally. He would need someone powerful by his side, someone who would not back down. His instinct told him not to choose Anakin, but the memory of the spectre haunted him. He will need compassion. More than that, Windu knew the young man would never accept staying behind if his master's life was at stake. He had already done this before. Thus, he decided to call him. For the first time, Mace Windu would agree to walk alongside Anakin Skywalker on a mission of such magnitude. Upon meeting the young knight, Windu did not hide his serious posture. Skywalker, we are going to bring Kenobi back. But you must understand, this is not a mission of glory. It is duty. Anakin narrowed his eyes, resentful. Duty? They always remind me of duty, but they never trust me. The Council prefers to use me as a tool, not as an ally. Windu took a deep breath. Perhaps because you are still fighting yourself. But now Obi-Wan needs us, and I have no doubt you will do the impossible for him. The silence hung for a few moments until Anakin replied, firmly, "It's not for the Council, it's for him. Obi-Wan always believed in me." Despite the harsh words, the fire in the young man's eyes revealed determination. Windu recognized this. Even if he did not fully trust Anakin, the Force showed that his destiny was intertwined with everyone's at that moment. Thus, master and reluctant apprentice united, each carrying distrust and wounds, but both with the same goal. The duo departed into the unknown, the Republic's ships cutting through space in silence. In each of their hearts, the mission carried different meanings. For Windu, it was the chance to test his suspicions and follow the Spectre's warnings. For Anakin, it was the duty of saving the one he considered a brother. Destiny united them in a tense thread, on the verge of snapping. The Senate, Dooku, Palpatine, everything converged. But for now, what mattered was only rescuing Obi-Wan before it was too late. The ship glided through silent space toward Vorith Prime, an arid and somber world, where red dust covered the horizon and electrical storms streaked across the skies. There, rumors indicated the presence of a separatist base filled with weapons and droids. It was the same route Obi-Wan had followed before disappearing. In the cockpit, Mace Windu and Anakin remained in uncomfortable silence. There was no room for pleasantries. The atmosphere between them was one of restrained distrust, each observing the other as if measuring invisible forces. The descent was turbulent. The planet seemed hostile, as if repelling intruders. During the approach, Anakin kept glancing at the console, anxious to spring into action. Windu, on the other hand, remained unshaken, eyes fixed on the surface drawing near. The Jedi Master believed in discipline and control, the Knight in quick, incisive action. The differences were glaring. Remember, Skywalker, we follow the same path Kenobi did. If there are traps, they will be deadly, Windu warned. Anakin only nodded, but his expression made it clear. He could not stand long orders. From atop a cliff, they observed the Separatist installation. Towers of metal rose from the desert, guarded by bounty hunters and reptilian warriors hired by Dooku. The silence was broken by Windu, who pointed, "Those are not ordinary. I recognize that species. They were under the command of the invisible lizard I faced." Before he could continue, Anakin was already charging down the slope, lightsaber ignited, ignoring the order to stop. Windu took a deep breath, feeling his patience wearing thin, and followed after him. It was like fighting beside a storm. The battle began immediately. Blasters fired from all sides, droids emerged from metallic passages, and the reptilian warriors native to the planet advanced with energized spears. Anakin charged with fury, cutting down enemies with impressive speed, but left himself open to dangerous gaps. Windu, methodical, covered his flaws and kept the enemies under control. The fight lasted long minutes until, finally, they dominated the field. Amid the chaos, they captured one of the reptilians. Through a firm interrogation, they discovered something crucial. Dooku's true movements were directed toward another distant planet, called Calveris. Calveris was a brutal contrast to Vorith Prime. There, the terrain was swampy, dominated by mercenary clans who survived by selling information and services to the highest bidder. The humidity clung to the skin and the dense vegetation concealed watchful eyes in every shadow. To avoid drawing attention, Windu and Anakin had to infiltrate as ordinary outsiders, hiding their sabers and masking their presence in the Force. The forced coexistence required trust. For the first time, they walked side by side without an immediate battle, only with the tension of silence and the need to remain unseen. The silence was very uncomfortable until Anakin finally said something. He thanked the Master for having helped him and covered his back when he was surrounded by many enemies. Mace Windu said that was part of their job and that he would have done the same for any other Jedi companion. Even though it wasn't much, they began to understand each other right there. During the night, camped in an isolated clearing, a rare conversation arose. Mace, in a low tone, admitted, "The Senate is not what it seems anymore. I feel there is something dark at the heart of the Republic, but I still cannot prove it." Anakin, looking at the swamp illuminated by the moon, replied with a sigh, "I am afraid for my master. He is like a brother. He raised me like a son." For the first time, Master and Knight revealed themselves vulnerable to each other. The silence that followed was heavy, but filled with understanding. The next day, the infiltration nearly failed when a mercenary clan tried to sell them to the Separatists. The duo reacted quickly, fighting off ambushes in narrow passages of roots and mud. Anakin wanted to destroy everything in his path. Windu insisted on precision. The clash of styles generated friction, but also forced them to complement each other. The balance between discipline and impulse became, little by little, a powerful weapon. In the end, they seized the mercenaries' navigation data, which pointed to another point in Dooku's route, the planet Zifra. Zifra was a mineral world, surrounded by belts of asteroids that glistened under the starlight. But the real threat was in orbit. a battlefield filled with droid interceptors and separatist frigates. As soon as they appeared, Mace and Anakin's ship was detected. With no time for discussions, the two launched into the fight. Windu took control of the evasive maneuvers while Anakin, impatient, manned the turret and fired at the enemy ships with fury. Each shot seemed to ease his frustration, and Windu's strategic calm kept the ship intact. The battle in orbit was intense, with waves of droid fighters surrounding them. But by uniting their skills, they managed to advance to the command core of a droid station. The invasion was brutal. Doors exploding, corridors filled with the echo of sabers and deflected blaster fire. Side by side, they fought as a deadly duo. In the end, they hacked the central computers. In the records, they found vital clues. Dooku had transferred important prisoners to a hidden fortress in an isolated system, beyond the common routes of the Republic. Exhausted, the two looked at each other. For the first time, there was mutual respect. Windu saw in Anakin's eyes not just impulsiveness, but also a flame of determination that might be necessary against the darkness. Anakin, in turn, recognized in Windu not just rigidity, but an unshakable strength that upheld the order. Still, the tension did not disappear. They were merely learning to use their differences as weapons. When the ship left Zifra, the message was clear. Obi-Wan was alive, imprisoned in a fortress of Dooku in a remote system, hidden from the Republic and protected by dark secrets. The mission was becoming even more dangerous, especially because they now understood that the Count would receive a very important and powerful guest to check how things were going. But now they had a defined target. The rescue would not be just a battle against separatists, but against destiny itself, which bound them together. Vorith Prime was already in the past. Now, before them, rose Dooku's fortress in an isolated system, surrounded by black towers and walls that resembled sharp fangs. Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker landed their ship in a hidden ravine, wearing mercenary disguises to avoid drawing attention. For the first time, Anakin held back. He followed the Master's instructions, took a deep breath, and remained calm. Windu, surprised, realized that the young man could discipline his impulses when the goal was to save someone he loved. They slipped stealthily through the side corridors of the fortress. Every step was calculated, every corner analyzed. They avoided confrontations, taking down guards only when necessary and hiding the bodies in the shadows. Anakin controlled his breathing, remembering what Windu had told him. Silence is as deadly as the saber. The tension was suffocating, but the infiltration advanced successfully. For the first time, they acted as a true pair, complementing each other in rhythm and strategy. After hours of progress, they found a chamber lit by red flames. In the center, Obi-Wan Kenobi was bound to a containment machine, wounded, debilitated, and before him stood two figures. Count Dooku, with his aristocratic bearing, and a hooded being whose voice echoed like a dark thunder. Powers beyond any limit await you, Kenobi. This is your last chance. The sinister being unleashed a burst of lightning onto Obi-Wan's body, who screamed in pain, but kept his gaze firm. With difficulty, Kenobi raised his voice. Never, I will never surrender to the dark side. Then, in a dramatic gesture, the hooded one pulled back the cloak, revealing the familiar face. Still hidden, Anakin recoiled in shock, unable to believe it. Windu, on the other hand, felt only the bitter confirmation of his suspicions. The silence was broken when Palpatine ordered, "Count, cut off his head now." Dooku's red blade rose. At the last second, Windu and Anakin leapt from the shadows, sabers ignited. The enemies turned in surprise, but the blades were already striking toward the containment machine. In a combined blow, they destroyed the mechanism that drained Obi-Wan, freeing him though he was too weak to fight. Kenobi looked at Anakin, discreet tears in his eyes. "I am happy to see you here, and grateful for Mace as well. The Chancellor, he is the Sith we seek." Palpatine smiled, his voice dripping with venom. "Now there is no reason to deny it. Come, Anakin. Join me and together we will rule the galaxy." But Anakin raised his blue saber, firm. "Never." The tension exploded into combat. Dooku lunged at Windu, while Palpatine attacked Anakin. The entire hall was consumed by the deadly glow of sabers. The duel between Windu and Dooku was a clash of styles. The Count attacked with his elegant Makashi. First a long thrust, deflected by Windu. Then a refined spin that almost struck the Master's shoulder, blocked at the last instant. Windu responded with brutality, striking his saber like a hammer. Dooku's third strike, a sequence of quick thrusts, was pushed back by the ferocity of Vapad. In the fourth clash, Windu almost broke through the Sith's guard. They were evenly matched, but the raw style was slowly overcoming the elegant one. The fifth was fatal, a diagonal strike so powerful it decapitated Dooku in a crackle of light. Meanwhile, Anakin faced Palpatine. The Chancellor wielded a red saber with quick, treacherous movements, interspersed with force lightning. First, a low strike that Anakin blocked. Then, a burst of lightning that hurled him against the wall. The third attack was a vertical spin, nearly breaking his defense. The fourth, an explosion of lightning that threw him to the ground. Palpatine, panting, screamed, "You belong to me. You were born to rule." Anakin resisted but was about to succumb. It was then that Obi-Wan, even on the brink of death, raised his hand. The Force gathered in his fragile gesture, restraining Palpatine for a few seconds. "Now, Anakin!" he shouted. The young Jedi advanced with all his strength, driving the blue saber through the Sith's chest. Palpatine screamed, hatred burning in his face, until he finally fell dead, defeated. Windu, exhausted but victorious, approached. At his side, Anakin helped Obi-Wan to his feet, still weak but alive. The weight of victory was immense, and the silence that followed seemed impossible to break. Together, they organized their escape, carrying the wounded master and fleeing through the corridors they had once invaded. The fortress began to collapse under explosions provoked during the fight. When they reached the ship, Mace paused for a moment. He looked at Obi-Wan and, in the reflection of the Force, once again saw the bluish figure who had visited him at the beginning. The spectre smiled, now revealed. It was truly Ben Kenobi from a distant future, older, wiser, guiding the steps of the Jedi. Windu finally understood. That visit had not been an illusion, but a reminder that the Force always guides those who listen. The ghost spoke one last time. "Now you understand. The Order has a chance because you chose to trust one another." And he vanished. Windu took a deep breath, feeling hope reborn. Obi-Wan was still alive, Anakin had resisted temptation, and the hidden Sith had finally fallen. The galaxy was far from saved, but, for a moment, there was enough light to believe in the future.